Hey, and welcome back. It has been a while. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know why. But for the rest of you who didn't catch that little story, the reason is market season. It has been crazy around here. I spent way too much time on market stuff and I just had to, something had to go. And unfortunately that was the YouTube videos. So my last video was 2 weeks ago. I will... But today, this was kind of the push I needed. Thank you, Christina, for doing this. Christina from the DIY Mommy is organizing yet another challenge on YouTube here. So basically all that means is a bunch of us YouTubers are making our own videos and uploading them to one playlist. So all of you can check out other channels that are all linked on that playlist. And it's just a way for you to get to know some more YouTubers and follow some more great channels. On that note, make sure you hit that subscribe button, please. There are 90% of my viewers are not subscribed to me. So make sure you hit that red button. Turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss a video, and give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. This DIY Mommy challenge is all about Christmas home decor, and again, I always have to do something a little bit unique. So I thought I'd do a bit of a spin on a wreath. So I'm showing you how to make a DIY Christmas ornament door hanging, and I got the inspiration for this from actually another local lady, a local artist, who makes something very similar on canvas, and she stuffs it so it's like a 3D effect, and she paints on the front of it, and they are beautiful. I'll see if I can grab some pictures here, pop them in. But that's where I kind of got the idea from, so I decided to make my own version, a sewing one. So let me show you how to make it. So what you're going to need for this wreath alternative is fabric. You can use two the same, or you can use two different like I'm doing here, a wreath form, and some interfacing. Heavier weight is highly recommended. And then I'm using a wreath form to trace around for my size guide. If you don't have a wreath form, use a pot. You can use like a plant pot or a cooking pot. You can use a bowl, a lampshade, anything you have that is large. And then other than this, you just need your regular sewing supply. So here I'm just using a wreath form that I already had to trace on my fabric, so I know how big to make it. And then I'm going to add a little bit of seam allowance around this as well. And then I'm going to cut this out and use it to trace on my interfacing and the other side that I'm making. So on one side I'm going to have this pretty print here that I got from the Fabric Snob, and on the other side I'm going to have this plain brown, and I'm going to do some applique on it. And I like using this mini rotary cutter because it's great for curves. A big one would work well too for this big circle. And then for the top of the Christmas ornament, I'm going to just be using this piece of muslin. So I'm going to need two pieces the same and an interfacing as well. So this is kind of tricky to figure out, and I'm just going to kind of wing it and see what looks good. So you can just place your ornament round fabric on top and then just kind of trace, make a little bit of a trace there and see what's going to look good. Then go ahead and add your seam allowance and cut it out. It'll be a rectangular piece, and then you're going to have at the bottom, you're going to trace for your curve of your ball. So there's my two pieces, and now I'm going to cut one interfacing to match. Okay, so now it's time to actually do this applique. So I'm going to pin these all on where I want them when I'm happy with the positioning, and then go ahead and applique them. So you could also use some rickrack or other strips of fabric cut into zigzag to make kind of like a chevron pattern for to make it look more like a Christmas ball if that's what you were going for. You could do polka dots. You can kind of just let your imagination run wild with this. This is what I'm doing, again, just because I wanted something a little more homemade looking, and I don't want that to sound like a bad word, but it's just a little less polished than what most people normally go for. And I ended up using glue stick to stick these on, just to, so I'm not like fighting with pins and everything. You could also use Wonder Tape if you don't have a glue stick. I played around with a few previously, and I think I ended up just liking a really tight zigzag the best. So now the next step is to finish it, to sew everything together. So the first thing we're going to do is attach our hanging part. And you can see I did mine kind of not straight on purpose. I want it to be a little bit off center. Like that. Kind of just depends how you want to hang it. Flip it this way, and we're gonna have to be doing some easing in there. So I'm just gonna use my pins and pin it together. I'm gonna start on the two ends and then just ease the middle in together. I'm gonna do the same on the other side and then sew along the curves. The one thing to make sure of is that your pieces, if they're non-symmetrical, make sure that they're mirrored. So I think the best way to do this is to actually put your two pieces together and then match it up from there. And there is a little bit of wiggle room because it is a circle. If you were using a directional print, there would not be as much wiggle room. Okay, so then you want to trim your seams here with pinking shear, iron it. Okay, so now at this point you have two options. You could either sew all the way around and then finish it off with bias binding, depending what look you're going for, or you can put the two pieces right sides together and sew around, leaving a gap somewhere. I recommend at the top of your hanging piece, just to make it easier being on a straight. And I recommend throwing in your whatever you're going to use for your hanging cord, putting that in now so it's sandwiched between when you're going to sew. So I'm just going to be using a piece of jute, and I want to make sure that it is at the right spot, and then add my second piece on top. It's important to make sure that the main pieces line up and that nothing is going to get lost when you're sewing. Okay, now I'm just going to start at the top here, sewing all the way around, stopping a couple inches before where I started to leave a gap to turn. And you can sew forward and back a few times over your whatever you're using to hang this with. And then we're going to trim the circle part with a pinking shear. If you don't have a pinking shear, you'll have to go all the way around and flip this by folding and then clipping like this, and then continuing that all the way around. Pinking shears make it a lot easier. And you're also going to clip the corners of your hanging piece. And on the inside corner, you're going to make a little snip as well. And then once you have your seam all trimmed, you're just going to flip everything out through that gap we left in the top. And now you can press this flat and top stitch if you wish. And now if you didn't want to top stitch this, you would just close your opening up with an invisible stitch, ladder stitch, whatever you want to call it, blanket stitch. But I am going to top stitch mine. And here is the final So thanks so much for those of you who have stayed to the end. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
want to
request it.
have a wreath. You can have a wreath.
Thanks so much for those of you who have stayed to the end. Please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I want to see your makes, so tag me on Instagram at sewingfromscratch. And thanks again, Christina, for organizing this. Catch you guys in the next video.